Stats Canada, women and people of color have been disproportionately affected this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. What steps can Canadians take to ensure more diversity in the workplace in 2021? Joining us now is Nadine Spencer. She's the president and CEO of the Black Business and Professional Association and also the president and CEO of Brand EQ Group. Nadine, nice to be able to catch up with you once again and continue the conversation. Thanks for being with us. And why don't we just start from the top, and for new viewers who perhaps are a little bit unfamiliar in terms of the topic that we are talking about today, which is women and especially minorities really being hardest hit. Why is that?
You know, it's hardest hit, especially for minority women, because, you know, we've been sort of underrepresented in so many different sectors over many, many years. And, you know, when for Black women specifically, we have, you know, systemic barriers, and including, you know, gender parity has always been a challenge in the workforce. And so with COVID, things like access to capital, access to different resources to help women get through this pandemic has been quite a challenge.
It's interesting, though, because we certainly have seen over the past number of years, really, various government programs that are geared towards providing access of capital to women and minorities. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of people about this and a lot of women and female entrepreneurs who say they actually can't get access to the capital, which is astounding given the fact that it is targeted. So how do you explain that, or what are your observations?
You know, I totally understand what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. You know, the access to capital, we all think that everyone has access to capital, but, you know, we don't. Women, and of course, minority women. Right now at the BBPA, the Black Business and Professional Association, you know, our mandate is to address equity and create economic opportunity for Black women, for Black professionals across the country. And what we recognize is that lack of access to capital is a key function that helps women sustain themselves, their business, their livelihoods. And, you know, because of systemic barriers, the playing field is not a level one. You know, it's still very much an old boys club, and women are very much excluded from that. And when we look, you know, at Black women, we're also excluded. When you look at the numbers, you know, to every dollar that men earn, women make 83 cents of that dollar, and Black women are even less. So these are the, you know, long time systemic barriers that affect women into advancement in so many areas.
Yeah, you know, I've always looked at that number. I've been working for, I don't know, since 1995 probably, so for a long time, and, you know, it has driven me nuts every single day in terms of the disparity on the pay front. And when I do talk about that, well, some of the pushback I can get is that, and this isn't true across the board, but this is one element. They'll say, well, you know, women don't have as high paying jobs, and therefore that's what gets incorporated into that disparity in terms of 83 cents to the dollar. But I also see it just in terms of, you know, doing the exact same job. So how do you look at it? Because, you know, there's not even the agreement in terms of how we should be looking at it.
Yeah, you know, so I start from the basic foundation of, you know what, we have to pay women what we're worth. You know, look at our skill set and recognize that when we bring a level to the table, you know, pay us what white men are getting, because we do have the skill, we do have the ability. So I think that's the first thing we need to look at.
Absolutely. When we think about where we go from here in terms of 2021, what do you want to see corporations do? I mean, ones who are really serious about making some change happen. What are some areas and key pieces of advice that, you know, we want to see some results here? For
sure. Number one is walk the talk. If we truly say that we are caring about diversity and inclusion and bringing women to the table, have a look at our boardroom, have a look at the structure, and see how that is represented. If it is not represented, then we have to realize, corporations have to realize that we have not said what it is we're going to do. And once we recognize that, we have to take action. So get the training done, you know, mentor, get women the resources that we need to operate at the table and participate in this, and in the same game that our counterparts have been participating into to great success. So training is a big part of that.
You know, you talk about having diversity at the board level, and it sounds as though also senior management, very senior management. I've always kind of looked at this as well. And, you know, in my opinion, you're right. Like, everything does come from the top. I mean, that is what implements culture or not. At the same time, I don't know that there's been enough emphasis, and maybe this is where your training comment comes in, that we're training women and minorities in the right way to really make sure that they don't just thrive, that they really that they don't just survive, that they really thrive. And that's got to be a bit of a bottoms-up approach. What's lacking in that area right now, and that incentive and that encouragement and motivation?
You know what? I think we have to be so intentional. And I'll give you an example. Just today, we were working with a project. There were men selected to move forward into the strategic plan team, and 3 men were chosen. And even though there were women on the team, so I said, hey, what about the women? So I then made a motion to put the woman forward. I think that's what we have to do. Corporations and government and everyone, we have to be intentional about who we're putting forward. And when we see that someone's missing from the table, we have to say, why aren't they at the table? And we have to if we don't know what we don't know. So if we're not at the table, we don't know how to make the moves and make the play. But when you include women, when you include minority women, Black women, we're able to get to that table and learn. Because how can we say that we don't have the people with the skill set and the experience when we're not giving them the opportunity? So that's one of the things I would love to see in 2021 moving forward.
Nadine, that's I'm almost a bit shocked. Like, thank goodness you were at the table, but the fact that you had to point it out without calling anybody out, I don't want to do that. That's not how I operate. But were you not shocked?
You know what it is? Shocked, but it's what we're used to. I think that's the thing that gets me the most. Nobody says, hey, what about so-and-so? Because we're so familiar to just having men at the table. And even for the men who are very conscious, it's the norm. So we have to really work to pivot that and flip that and make a new norm. And what does that new norm look like? I always say that our spaces should look like the UN. Everyone should be represented.
Well said, well put. Great to speak with you and get your perspective, and let's keep the conversation going in 2021.
Absolutely. Great to be here, and thank you for having me.
And beyond.
Yes, yeah. And beyond.
All right.
Absolutely.
And beyond, but let's get something done in 2021. Okay, we'll leave it there. Nice to see you again.
Holidays.
Thank you, you too. That is Nadine Spencer. She is the president and CEO of the Black Business and Professional Association, and also the president and CEO of Brand EQ Group.